At around 10:30 a.m. on March 31st, a chartered aircraft bound for Pyongyang took off from Gimpo International Airport. Inside were 120 members of a South Korean art troupe and Taekwondo demonstrators leaving for their Pyongyang performance.
공연 제목 봄이 온다처럼 정말 한반도에도 그런 평화의 봄이 함께할 수 있는 염원을 담아서 끝까지 최선을 다하고 돌아오겠습니다. 많은 응원 부탁드리겠습니다. 여기서 공연하듯이 또 북측에 가서도 편안하게 공연할 겁니다.
The South Korean art troupe's Pyongyang performance was in reciprocation to that of their North Korean counterparts who performed during the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics.
오늘은 우리가 하나라는 것을 느끼면서 마음 깊이 감동할 수 있는 그런 시간이 되었으면 좋겠습니다.
On April 1st and 3rd, the South Korean art troupe performed in a large 12,000-seat hall. The North Korean audience reacted with enthusiasm, clapping and cheering on the performers. The concert venue was also attended by a surprise guest, with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and his wife Lee Seol-ju taking seats to watch the performance. After watching the performance, Kim Jong-un emphasized the need for further cultural exchanges between the two Koreas, proposing another concert in Seoul later this fall.
거기에 계신 북측 많은 분들이 호응을 엄청 잘해주셨어요. 박수도 많이 쳐주시고 마지막에 선배님들과 노래를 이제 부르는데 북측 분들도 같이 부르시더라고요. 같이 환호를 해주시면서 같이 부르는데 뭔가 우리가 한 민족이라는 게 너무 느껴져서 너무 감격스러워서 눈물이 났던 것 같아요.
It is hoped that further inter-Korean exchanges can take place following the South Korean art troupe's performance in Pyongyang as we lead up to the historic summit between President Moon Jae-in and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. All right, so let's first talk about the art troupe members. You know, while all were pop stars here in South Korea, there was quite a diversity in terms of the age, genre of music, and their sort of history with North Korea. Were you familiar with any of the artists?
Well, I'm most familiar with Red Velvet, which I ended up doing a piece on in the run-up to this diplomatic exchange.
You did.
But they were the youngest artists.
Yes.
So there is a member of Red Velvet that is 19, but then this art troupe also had folks in their 60s. And so this was quite a range. There was also YB Band, which is a famous rock band from a few decades ago, but still well known, right? And so the range was interesting and well put together. The thing about Red Velvet, I thought that made it very interesting for that group is that it opened up this whole diplomatic and geopolitical struggle to a lot of K-pop fans who weren't familiar with it, and so suddenly a lot of their fans were pulled along with this journey to North Korea. So.
Right. What about you? Were you familiar with any of the artists?
Well, maybe just a little bit Cho Young-pil and YB. I've been in Korea for some time, so I recognize those two performers, although I'm not that familiar with their body of music. Like Elise, I think it's fascinating to see the sort of range of people that got to go along, of course, without Psy. I think he might have represented a little bit too much of the sort of decadent capitalism in terms of North Korea's perspective of some music that comes out of the Korean wave and the West. But I thought it was a nice mix and that it was generally well received by a sort of official audience of the North Korean elite.
What was really interesting to me to see how sometimes the North Korean public was a bit stone-faced. For example, when Red Velvet performed, usually in South Korea the crowd would get wild, but in North Korea they applaud very politely. And one of the images that still struck me today was to see the South Korean Minister of Culture holding hands with Kim Jong-chol, which is a general that is accused in South Korea of having orchestrated the Cheonan attack. And to see these two guys holding hands, standing and singing the song together, that was really, really interesting.
So that stood out for you, that
moment?
moment?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So what sort of criteria do you think was employed in selecting who got to be part of the South Korean art troupe?
Well, it's interesting because we thought there was going to be a lot of rules about what they could sing and which artists could go.
What they could wear.
And what they could wear. And then ultimately, after the first performance, there were news reports that came out that said North Korea was not very strict about their repertoire and what they could perform. And so I think, you know, South Korea's organizers probably deliberately had some rules about, hey, dress conservatively, don't go nuts and bare your midriff. This is North Korea, after all, it is a totalitarian state. And then, you know, there was talk about the South Koreans being interested in bringing perhaps their greatest international K-pop star, Psy, up to Pyongyang, but that not working out for whatever reason. I'm not clear whether that was because of North Korea or because of South Korea and Psy and his management group making that choice. So that's still yet to be explained.
A couple of performances that I really liked were Jae-in and Lee Sun-hee.
이선희.
I think those really got a special response from the audience. I thought the audience was a little bit more reserved for Red Velvet. They went through their whole, you know, pretty sexy dance routine that I thought...
They were more covered up than usual.
Yeah, perhaps their dress, they were dressed a little different, but in terms of their choreography, I thought that they were allowed to do what they might normally do at a concert. And I thought the reception was a little bit cooler for them than it was to the other couple of singers that I mentioned that I thought that the audience really responded to quite favorably.
Right. Well, this isn't the first time that a South Korean art troupe performed in North Korea. It is the first time that a North Korean leader actually came to see the concert. Do you think Lee Seol-ju and Kim Jong-un actually enjoyed the performance?
I think they did.
It looked like they did.
It looked like they did, you're right. He said that he knew Red Velvet before, and I'm pretty sure, I'm sure he watches K-pop and Korean drama at home.
Do you think Kim Jong-un had any input in who was selected to perform?
I don't know. I think that's a good question. I know that there was, or heard or read reports that there was some involvement of North Korean in terms of Psy's exclusion from visiting Pyongyang, but I'm not sure about the other artists. I think that they were generally well received. It was a good concert. I mean, South Korean performing arts is consumed by people around Southeast Asia and the world for a reason. It's good. You know, the performances that take place here is good. That the performing culture here is really developed. Right. And so, you know, why wouldn't virtually everybody in the audience enjoy the concert?
Do you think any members of the audience might have felt a sense of aversion
Maybe.
to this new music?
We have no idea what the people in the audience feel, but we also don't know, beyond the fact that they were elites and officials, who those individuals were. I think that's what makes it really interesting for us Westerners or foreign media to kind of watch this, because really what's arguably more fascinating are those people in the audience and what they've been exposed to, what's their context. You know, like when we go to a concert, we often know the range of music within a certain genre, or we know the history of the group and all of that. What is the context for a North Korean elite? How much exposure to what's typically banned South Korean art and pop culture have they actually gotten? And what I suspect is quite a bit, you know, because this is all available in the markets and through, you know, black market trading and all that.
And I think they have to be careful. You know, in North Korea, you always watch each other all the time. So I think even if they really like it, they should not show it, or if they really don't like it, just in case, you just still clap. So I think everybody in the audience were extremely careful.
Yeah, they had a very measured response.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was measured enthusiasm or if that was forced enthusiasm.
I think that's a really good question, and I was wondering, okay, are they not singing along because they don't know the lyrics or don't want to sing along, or don't think that they should sing along for certain songs that they might have known?
You mentioned this before, but singer Jo Yong-pil and Lee Sun-hee, they probably had more resonance with people in the North because perhaps they're more of a similar generation to the North Korea's audience there. Which artist do you think resonated the most?
Exactly, the one you said. And I think that's another thing that is absolutely fascinating, and I think that's why this concert is so good, because it shows to North Korean how South Korea is changing, and there was one artist, he was just singing with his own guitar, singing some songs, and I could feel that exactly. Yeah. This is South Korea now. This is how diverse we are, this is how different we are from you, and this shows as well that maybe you need more exchange because the two Koreas are somehow diverging in terms of culture, even of language. So this is why it's so important, and I think they're probably very surprised to see what the new South Korean artists are doing.
I think that's one of the goals here in sort of unification education that they're trying to do here in South Korea, and perhaps with the exchanges in North Korea. They recognize this difference that has taken place, this gap developing between the cultures of the two countries, and they want to educate both sides to those changes and help through that bring them closer together.
Okay, now let's talk about the South Korean media. Now, there have been mixed reactions from the South regarding the performances. Some say it helped further alleviate tensions in the Korean Peninsula, while others say it was just for a show, it was a good show, and that's that. What's your assessment?
Tough thing about cultural diplomacy is that it's just like soft power. You can't get a really clear black and white metric on it, right? But little by little, proximity often breeds familiarity, and familiarity can breed friendship. And so I'm generally a supporter of sports exchange and cultural exchange, even though we can't measure like, oh, this happened and then this happened directly. You know, it's not going to work like that. It's going to work through this additional interface and familiarity.
We're not going to go from here to the complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of North Korea, but it will, I think, help build trust between the two countries.
All right.